Welcome to Brain Wellness, the podcast. I'm your host, Mandy NP. Each episode will bring you a new topic or interview related to brain health and wellness as part of my mission to help you on the path to a healthier, happier brain. So, let's get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Brain Wellness, the podcast. My guest today is Katy Parker. Katy is a trauma-informed well-being writer who integrates mental health and faith into her words. She is a mental health advocate and mentor who was born in Slovakia but lives in England and shares her journey of overcoming trauma on her Journeyofsmiley blog. Katy is not shy in addressing controversial subjects or issues that deserve more attention. She is also the founder of the PTSD My Story project, a safe space for trauma survivors to share their stories and inspire others whilst also helping to fight the stigma surrounding mental health. Her goal is to encourage and empower trauma survivors and support them on their healing journey. Katy believes that healing shouldn't be a luxury and that everyone deserves a chance to heal. That's why she created a free ebook, 7 Keys to Self-Healing, a Trauma Survivor's Guide. Check out Katy's Journey of Smiley blog and get the keys to your healing. And I will include show notes with all of that so people can access it. But in the meantime, thank you for being here today, Katy.
Thank you so much for having me here today. Thank you. And greetings from England. Yeah.
Yes, I love when I get to talk to people outside of the United States because it's always one, I love accents, so that's always my favorite thing about it. But just hearing how sometimes our stories are different yet the same, even though we are an ocean apart between all of this. And we connected before we hit record on this show, so I've heard a little bit of your background. For our listeners, can you tell a little bit about your story? What brought you to where you are now?
Yes, so you said I'm from Slovakia and I live in England. And kind of my story. Let's start in 2020 because what a year was it? I'm sure everybody remembers 2020. When lockdown came, and towards the end of 2020, I was thinking, okay, hopefully it's just like going back to normal. But yeah, for me, I think it just kind of started because towards the end of 2020, I had a terrible accident. So yeah, I was coming back from work when a van hit me as I was crossing the road. So I almost made it safely on the other side of the road, on the pavement, when the van hit me. And the thing is, I remember everything, like I remember leaving work. I remember kind of everything up to the point when the fan kind of hit me. So the fall, actually, I don't really remember. I remember seeing the car. I remember the scene, like everything, up to the point when it did hit me. So yeah, that's I kind of like, they say brain kind of protects you, that you don't really remember things, and says brain doesn't want you to remember, that it protects you. And I wonder if this is happening actually in my brain, really. So yeah, but I know it was, towards the end of 2020. So in England, a bit cold, but nice day. I was going home and from work, and yeah, I only used to live about, or I still live, I still kind of work that. Is only about 10 minutes walking or so. So yeah, because we do walk here lots, so, in Europe, yeah, and in England, we do walk here lots. So yeah, and I was crossing the road and saw the car, but I was thinking it's far away. Still, I'm safe to cross. And so yeah, otherwise, obviously, nobody would do this. So yeah, and yeah, and I got hit by a car, and I was, because it hit me from the left side, and I was thinking I fell on the right side. But when I opened my eyes, I could see the car again. So I was on my left one. The car was quite far away from me, so I was wondering, like, why is the car so far? Like, surely it hit me. It should be next to me or so. And then yeah, my husband, because it was in lockdown, and so he worked from home. So somebody just went to fetch my husband. And he came there in the hospital. So the ambulance actually, they were quite quickly there as well. So everything happened kind of very quickly. I know my colleagues were there as well because it was like lots of people leaving work at the same time, and so they were there as well, and I know like lots of people there, but as I said, I don't remember exactly everything, like not the fall, and not how I ended up on the stretchers. I know I was on the stretchers and put it on the ambulance, say in the ambulance car, but I don't really know how they put me on this. So I just kind of, I'm just thinking about this. I was like, I just don't remember this, And then I ended up in hospital. What really was actually hard was that because it was in lockdown, I had to say goodbye to my husband there. And it really was quite emotional because I just really wanted him to come with me and he couldn't. So I was in tears then. So yeah, my husband Chris, he couldn't come with me, and it was really kind of something. What it was hard for me to kind of like process the whole time, like even later when I had a therapy, and so that was one of the really kind of the really saddest moment, I would say, that he couldn't come with me because being there, I don't even remember the pain much. I know I hit my head and I couldn't move, and I couldn't stand up or anything. But I think I just was in shock because I remember I was really cold on the ground and I was really like in shock. And then I gave me a morphine in an ambulance car, so I kind of the pain I couldn't really feel that, but I know I was so emotionally down. And he said to me, he cannot come with me. And the other thing what I really remember is the bang of the car when it hit me. So that was like two things that really just stuck with me in my head. Yeah. And then we came to the hospital and I had my x-ray done and all the scans and everything. And it was quite funny because first they did tell me that I will be able to go home that evening. And it's like, oh, you're a really, really lucky girl, you'll be able to go home. And I was thinking, okay. And I needed to go to toilet. And I said to them, like, oh, I need to go to toilet because it has been a few hours I haven't been. And I was like, yeah, I really need to go to the loo. And they were like, okay, just like, I think first they probably just expected me to just get up and go toilet. And I was like, I cannot actually move. And they were like, okay, so we bring the toilet this. They brought this portable loo there. And I was like, I cannot even get off the bed. And I was thinking, how am I supposed to go home? They just told me that I'm very lucky to be able to go home and I cannot even move. So then they thought that this is not going to work. And then they brought kind of like a putty or something, like put it under me. And I was like, but this is not going to work. This is like what everybody's going to watch me or what, So it was like, and it's not like you say to yourself, okay, I need to pee now. Let's pee. And I was like, this is not going to work. So yeah, and then in the end, they had to actually put the cutter, is it? Yeah. And well, 10 minutes later, after they told me that I'm able to go home, another doctor came and said, yeah, you're not going to go home. And I was like, well, I was kind of thinking this. I cannot even actually stand up or move or anything. But he said to me today, got some like splits on the spine, but I didn't really know what really is going on. This is all they told me. And then first next day, I had a headache the whole night because I haven't eaten anything. Then they gave me something to eat in the hospital and I was just sick. So then they put me on dripping and it was like so noisy because I was dehydrated and it was so noisy I couldn't sleep, had a headache anyway. And then I was just waiting until the morning and then it's finally morning and then doctor came. And I remember in the morning I was trying to pick up something with my left side, in my left hand, something from the table that was on the right. And as soon as I like put my arm towards that side, it's just my back hurt so badly. So I was thinking, oh my gosh, I'm just moving my arm and my back. I can feel so much pain in my back. But I think the morphine started to slowly, it didn't work anymore, I think. And I just remember I as well was trying to see if I can move at least my leg just a little bit. And I did, just a tiny bit, but I was so grateful. Like I was in tears because it was painful, but I was in tears as well because I was so grateful today. was like relieved I will not be paralyzed, And then the doctor came and they kind of did tell me. They didn't tell me exactly what's wrong with me. They just said, like you will be okay, but it will take a very long time. And I was like, so how long? Like I was thinking, what we talking about? 2 weeks, 2 months? Like what? Still like optimistic and stuff. And yeah, I mean, it's 3.5 years and I'm still recovering. So yeah, and then when I was thinking I'll be still able to go home that day because they didn't say anything to me, but then they put me to different ward, and I was like, the nurse was like, no, I don't think you're going home because we need to take you to different ward. So you wouldn't be going to different ward if you had to go home. So it's like, okay, yeah, good. So what really is wrong with me? I still didn't know. And then there were actually the physio or the occupational therapists are telling me that actually they came with a skeleton and they explained to me like all the vertebrae and everything, and they said to me that my vertebrae are fractured, the L2, L3, L4 are fractured, and that's why I cannot really kind of move or walk on. So, but I didn't walk so much from the beginning, and I remember walking about a week later. It was my first time on crutches when I was coming towards my bed, and there was a big window there, and I was looking out of the window and I just stopped and I couldn't even move. And the physio, the occupational therapist was with me then, and she was like, are you okay? And I couldn't say a word. I just couldn't say a word. I was like, totally, and I just was in tears. And then she was like, okay, come here. So she brought me to my bed, closed the curtain, and she was like, I know what's going on. And I was like, I think I'm getting crazy. I had my first flashback. I was thinking I'm crazy, like seeing the ambulance car, it just gave me flashbacks to see all this. I was back there where it happened, back where I was in ambulance car. I was back there and I was thinking, I have no idea what's going on with me. And I was thinking, what's wrong with me? And she was like, there's nothing wrong with you, And it's almost like she said to me something like, that it was just a matter of the time, or so, like if they almost kind of had expected that something like this might happen. No, but this reassurance that there's nothing wrong with me, it was just, so comforting and really so reassuring. Those words really you need to hear. When something like this happens, really you need to hear that there's nothing wrong with you. It's not, this is not you. And the later on I had as well pastoral care. As I said, I'm writing about my faith as well, and I'm quite, religious and as a Christian person. So pastoral care, the priest came as well to see me. We were talking about things, but what happened then was that because I experienced trauma in my life before as well since child, and what happened then, and it was like a Pandora box opened and all started to get out, all those thoughts. And I really was thinking I'm getting crazy. Even though I know she said I am not, but I really was thinking I'm getting crazy. And yeah, all this trauma came out, because if you don't heal the trauma, on some stage it's coming, it will come out. So yeah. And since then, yeah, I had some EMDR therapy, some therapies, and as I say, I'm still in recovery. But my last EMDR therapy session showed that I'm a bit PTSD, just under the threshold. So yeah.
So we talked about the EMDR a little bit when we met before this interview, and that has been phenomenally helpful for my PTSD from my accident. And I'm really glad that you got that reassurance from that therapist that it was a normal thing to happen, because it is very normal. But yeah, when it happens, you do kind of feel like you're going crazy. So I can definitely understand that part of it. Now that whole time that you were in there, you had the fractured vertebrae. Did they ever talk about concussion or brain injury during this time?
Yeah, they were kind of saying to me, like they were asking me, because I said I hurt my head. Now, and doctors now as well kind of asking me like, so like, because I don't remember certain things as well, and I don't know why, and I don't know if this is PTSD or if I just lost consciousness for a bit. I really don't know, but I know I don't remember certain things. So they did my MRI thing on my head as well, and they didn't really find anything. So I don't know, but I know it can happen in the moment, like I can be okay again later. So yeah, so I don't really know why I don't remember certain things, but I just don't. And yeah, like I said, the actual fall I don't remember, and then getting on those stretches, I don't know how they put me there, but I couldn't really move, so they must have somehow, I don't really know how.
Yeah.
So yeah, I remember being on it, but I just don't remember how I got on them. So yeah, is they haven't really kind of, I think, mentioned it so much until the doctors later now talking about this. And so when I saw some doctors, yeah, and they're asking me this, and I'm like, we'll see. But I'm still waiting
Yeah.
for the diagnosis, and so we'll see what this brings.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's one thing that I've identified since my own accident is that it doesn't always get diagnosed correctly, and then you don't always get the right treatment that you need. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I guess if there's a silver lining of any of it, you did have physical injuries, so you did have somebody monitoring you and taking care of you. But what kind of with the injuries and then with the PTSD, what kind of resources did you need, or and are you still using those resources now at this point?
So yeah, being in hospital, and then because it was lockdown, I couldn't really have visitors. But what I asked my husband to bring me was a pen and something to write on paper. Because I used to, when I was still living in Slovakia, I used to write for different local newspaper and so. And since then, I haven't actually. But being in hospital and your head is like this. After this happened, my head was huge, really. I was like, no, this need to go out because otherwise I'm going to get crazy. I know the physiotherapist or occupational, she was said I'm not crazy, but I was thinking if I don't do something about this, I'm going to get crazy because my head is like this. So I took a pen and paper and I started to write. And really, writing that moment was my therapy. It really helped me so much because talking about brain, we know how this amygdala and the hippocampus and everything kind of changes. And really, I had to make sense of this. And by putting my thoughts and right actually on paper, I think I could like make slowly bit of sense of this, what is actually going on, what is happening. And I do write lots about this on my blog as well, because actually before that I didn't have a blog. And that, as I said, writing was first my therapy. And then I started to share it as well for other people. And then also I got the response from other people that, oh, this has happened to me as well, you're not alone. And it is so as well hearing this that you're not alone. It's like it takes so much burden away from you, just hearing this is so reassuring. And that's why I then founded as well PTSD My Story project for other people to share. Because I knew, I studied at university, psychology was part of my studies. I knew about kind of the brain development and so, but I didn't until then. And I still think kind of like I still cannot think of anybody who I knew before that who had PTSD or who openly said, I have PTSD. I'm still thinking about it. It's like, maybe there was somebody. No, I don't think so. I never heard that somebody said, I have PTSD. So really you think you are alone in this. And then other people kind of saying that, they as well have, I just created this project for us to share our stories and just tell others that you're not alone, there are others, and this is just totally normal things. It's not about what is wrong with you, it's something about what happened to you, because PTSD is an injury,
Yeah.
it's a mental injury, so it's about really what happened to you. So yeah, so writing was amazing help. And then I didn't have the EMDR until last summer actually. I had some therapists and so, but it was more like just a talking therapy and so.
Okay.
But later on, when I started to actually really going through the healing process and having the case manager and all these things, um, I got an EMDR, and that was really helpful as well, because she did teach me things like, I mean, I knew already before how to do the breathing and the breathing techniques and all these things, but as well, she did teach me things like, for example, the tapping on, on both kind of hands, and so something that stimulates both sides of your brain, because that's what it actually really needs to happen. So yeah, because it's really about your subconscious mind, so that's what really helped me as well, and it helped me with grounding, just kind of, I'm in a presence. It's not anymore, you're not in the, because for people with PTSD, it's so hard to, the brain kind of thinks that they are still in this danger, in the past. And it's like this techniques, grounding technique, and so really help you with this, that you're actually in present moment, it's the year, this and day, this and this. And so, yeah, so this was really helpful
Mhm.
as well. And yeah, EMDR itself is such a helpful therapy for PTSD. So yeah, and then obviously, as I did discover later on, that was things like having the support circle, for example, and self-love and self-care. This is really important. And one thing I'm still working on is my sleep. So yeah, unfortunately, because of the pain, this is something I'm still working on. So yeah, since the day of my accident, I didn't have much of good sleep, and I know how important is sleep for us. But unfortunately, the pain still wakes me up. It's not as bad as when I was at work, because 10 months later, I went back to work, and my body 3 weeks later just kind of said, no, stop. I was back full time at work, and it just was too much, for my body and for my mind and everything. So yeah, and then I was in 2.5 years in the circle where I was off work, and then I returned back to work, and then my body again said, no, is enough. And then I was, they call it this boom and buster, I think, or something like this. So yeah, so I was in this circle for 2.5 years, and then I said to myself, no, I just don't want to do this, because I went through depression, through everything, through grief, what I didn't even know I'm going through grief. So yeah, I went through grief as well, and all those things. And I was like, no, I really need to heal properly, my body, my mind, and everything. And I took the time for myself, and that was really so helpful. And I was grateful that I was able to do this, And yeah, like listening to your body is so important. So yeah, that was really helpful.
Yeah, that was a big lesson for me as well, was listening to that sign. Um, our bodies have a way of telling us when we're not ready to do something that we
Mm.
would like to be ready to do. But I think that's kind of a universal thing that I've talked to a lot of people that have been in situations where they've been in accidents like you and I have, and
Yes,
it's
because mm,
yeah, it takes so much out of you.
mm. Yeah, because before I was always the one who took care of others, like given my job, yeah, I was there for others, and as well, I was very patient with others, but I didn't have a patience with myself.
Mhm.
I just really had to learn to be patient and take day by day. Really, if whoever goes through this thing, just take day by day, really, and be patient with yourself. Listen to your body, because this is so important. And yeah, just be kind to your body, because I realized after 2.5 years that, because as I said, I had already trauma before as well, and I was a people pleaser and all these things. I didn't realize this is actually the trauma response.
Yeah.
I was just thinking, well, I have to be there, I have to do this, because this is, oh, like, what else am I then if I don't do this? It's my identity and all these things. And there really is, you know, I think, because one thing Fate really helped me with is like, it's not about this, like I was like, I'm loved anyway, doesn't matter if I go there and do this to my, and it's like, and look what I'm doing to myself, so really you cannot help others if you yourself are really down. So it really did teach me that, we have to have a full cup if we want to pour from it. So
Mhm.
yeah. Mm,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
mm.
In this process, what did you learn about PTSD and its effects on our memory?
Yeah, so as I said, already mentioned the amygdala and all these things, as I said, I did research a lot about PTSD
Yeah.
because as somebody who writes about it, and so yeah, so I noted, I'm sorry, I know it is a mental injury, as I said,
Yeah.
and it's injury because it has been caused by somebody else to, like any other injury, how, so it's not mental illness, and it's as well as physiological condition because it changes your brain. So yeah, it really is about your brain and your body.
Mhm.
It really, when I look at the symptoms I had, from really the most obvious probably when we think about PTSD, like the flashbacks or nightmares, up to like depression, anxiety, but as well the physical pain, the muscle, the joints, um, like digestion problems and all these things, you get all the sleep problems as well and all these things. So yeah, I mean, and then as I said, it is with the, like you said, with the memory is because um our kind of our brain, we still think that about this danger, that we are in this dangerous moment because it's about really survival mode. We are in this survival mode and say all the time, and we think even if something not dangerous, we straight think, oh gosh, there's a danger, there must be a danger. So because as I said about the amygdala and about the prefrontal cortex as well and the hippocampus, so the amygdala just gets so it's like the function is so overactive that when it's supposed to, because this is something that is responsible for about for processing our emotions, but then it's like it's supposed to be like your alarm system, but this alarm system is not on, it's just always going, and then the prefrontal cortex is that's supposed to be like your brakes, that actually doesn't work then. So it's really, you are always in the survival mode all the time, so it really is with me like having the anxiety, and so that was one of the biggest things. And then when I got depression as well, but as I as well said, I was going through grief as well, and that's
Mhm.
and that's PTSD can very often go with grief as
Yeah.
well. And that's why I didn't know about it. So this is so important. I think we talk about this as well because I didn't know about this. That like I knew I'm grieving my old life, like the traveling, all the fun stuff.
Yeah.
Really, like the traveling, everything I was doing before, going out, having fun with friends, and so I knew I'm grieving this, but I was just thinking, okay, I'm missing, almost kind of like I'm missing this.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that, like, that I was actually going through the stages of grief and all these things. It was first, actually, as I said, when I had the EMDR and my psychologist, we went through this, like, oh, you actually went through grief as well. And I'm
Mhm.
still, like, I am still, I think, because grief is something that is not something like, okay, I've done this, so I put it now on the shelf and I'm now, oh, okay. Yes, it will learn acceptance, but there come times, there comes times when I'm like, you know, I would love to do something, or I miss this and this, and it's just bad saying this. I wouldn't be sitting here today and talking to you
Mhm.
if I hadn't had the accident. So I know this as well. I always say when one door closes, the other door open.
Yeah.
So we as well need to think, you know, I could like, yes, I could just shut myself and say, I am whatever, everything, life is awful and all these things happen to me. But actually, I have chosen to do something about this. So this is a very big thing as well. You always have the choice.
Yeah.
So,
Yep. And how we choose to respond from a traumatic accident or event can make or break us, really. And some people do get stuck in that grief cycle that they can't get out of it and they can't see the
mm,
light. And having been there myself, it's really tough
mm,
to see those good things some days. But
yeah.
choosing to look for that positive, that makes
Mm,
a world of difference in your
mm,
recovery.
mm,
Because
yeah.
the more you see the positive, the more you see the positive. because the more
Yeah.
positive things are happening.
I totally agree. I mean, first I was, I think, too overly positive. And I was thinking, I'm going to recover, everything will be okay. And then when this didn't happen, I got really disappointed and all this thing. And then into depression and so. And I think like, well, toxic positivity is not good. But and one of the therapists I had at the beginning, that was the talking therapy, said to me, it's okay not to be okay. Because as my blog calls Journey of Smiley, and it's Journey of Me, my mom used to call me Smiley because I always smile, So yeah. But it's like, and in hospital I was smiling because I was thinking, oh, it's better to smile than cry. And so that smile can hide so many things, as well. And I learned that we need to process our emotions, and it is a healthy thing to process our emotions. That's what we need to do.
Mhm.
And so yeah, like you said, there are days still, it's not always easy, but even when those dark days come, and so I just kind of say to myself, is okay. I say to myself now, it's all right. You're all right to have those days.
Mhm.
Don't blame yourself for it. It's okay.
Mhm.
But then don't stay in this neither, like say it's all right that, like, yes, yeah, you went through difficult things. One of the people said to me at the beginning, like, it is really hard what happened to you, and it's really like, awful what happened to you. And I was like, well, like, that is not so hard, like, like, and I was like, what do you mean? Like, and it's like, now I'm like, no, it is hard, like, you do need to give yourself grace and kindness. And so, no, yeah, it is hard thing what I went through. And so I do have to grieve this. And so, but then, there is as well, say, I wouldn't be here today having this discussion with you. So
Mhm.
yeah, and I do. So yeah, it is for looking for the positive things as well in those hard things. And I think that's where
Yeah,
my faith as well helps me. Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. Of all the things that you did, is there one thing that you would say is like the biggest thing that helped you?
Heal, I would say.
Yeah.
To heal, because as I said, I went through trauma when I was young, and so as I said, and I think maybe because we didn't really. I had my role model, my mom, and she passed away 12 now over 10 years ago, and she was a woman who, yeah, she lost her first son, her first child. And she, my dad was alcoholic. My mom passed away, and as well later on. And so I went through several traumas, and so my mom as well. I mean, her family as well. Granny went through war and all these things. And Granny had 9 children. It wasn't always easy for her at home, and so she had a hard life as well. And but she never kind of moaned, and she never complained. And even when she got a cancer, she never really complained. And I was kind of almost thinking that's what strong supposed to be. And when I needed help inside, I was thinking, oh, because I'm not strong. And so, and I think that's perhaps I realized that this is not true. We can have a strengths, different strengths. And yeah, I have different strengths to my mom, and she was an amazing person and she was strong. But it doesn't mean that you or that I cannot be strong as well just because we decide to ask for help. So
Yeah.
now I was thinking maybe my mom didn't have anybody to ask for help. We were little kids. As I said, Granny went through as well hard things on her mom. And so maybe there was a time as I was born in Slovakia. And so when mental health was taboo, really. And it still often is, I must say. And
Mhm.
so I'm so grateful for you doing this because it needs to be talked about.
Yeah.
And, so maybe there wasn't help available, but
Mhm.
really to face these demons you go through requires you some bravery. You need to be brave. So when you have to be brave, you cannot be weak. So this is not weakness, this is really strength. So I can see now myself that yes, yeah, perhaps I have different strengths to my mom, doesn't mean that I'm weak. So and really facing this and to heal.
Mhm.
Healing is not like, I make me a cup of tea, I drink it and I'll be all fine, or I take a
Right.
pill and I'll be all fine. It's hard, but it is so worth it. And I'm so on this journey still, and I can already see, how it is worth it. It is really the decision to make,
Mhm.
to choose to heal.
Mhm.
But I always say you're not responsible for your trauma. This is something has been done to you, but you're responsible for your recovery, for your healing, so choose healing. Yeah, I would say.
Exactly. Yeah, it is a journey. You don't heal
Yeah,
overnight. The accident can happen really quickly, but the healing takes a long time.
yeah,
And allowing yourself to go through the motions and go through the feelings, that I agree. That's, I think, the biggest thing that you can do, because you can't move forward until you address those emotions. And especially if you have a history of trauma that now got triggered again by another trauma, that's a
mhm,
lot to have to unpack and go through. But I
mhm,
heard this somewhere along the way too. You choose your hard. Everything is hard in life, but you choose the what hard thing you're going to deal with, and that does lead to your strength, because you have to make it through that hard thing to come out the other side stronger.
yeah, yeah. No, I totally agree. So yeah, I mean, I would just say, yeah, choose healing. It is really worth it, and that's why, if I can mention, actually, I wrote my 7 keys to self healing.
Yeah.
So yeah, my guide to a trauma survivor's guide, where you find as well the keys for your healing. What helped me, and so I myself sometimes have to remind myself to go and read it again, and because,
Mhm.
as we said, not every day is just great, and so yeah, you will have sometimes have these dark days, and so but I think in this, I really put my knowledge there, but my experience and my discussions with professionals, and everything is in it. So yeah, I think that, yeah, writing really
Yeah.
helped me. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I wrote it for everybody who goes through different difficult time, but for myself as well. So yeah.
Yeah, the things that help us heal can also help others heal. So I was
Yeah.
actually going to ask you about that. How did you take that and start to help other people? So you wrote this
Yeah,
self-healing
I
book.
got.
You have your
Mhm.
blog that you share all the information on. Is there anything else that you're doing that you want to share with the listeners?
And obviously the PTSD My Story project. So
Yeah.
yeah, so I always encourage, like, I'm so grateful to all the people who do share their stories and who are part of the project. And as well, I say, like, if anybody going through a hard time would like to share your PTSD story, my message is always open, my email. I don't know if you will have it on the thing. So yeah, Smiley, journeyofsmiley.com, can always get to me. But as well, I am, because how I said it, I did find out that I was actually going through grief, and I didn't know about this. I unfortunately lost my mother-in-law as well
Mm.
a few months ago, and first seeing my husband um going through grief, it actually kind of, I was like, hey, I recognize this. It's like I was going through those things, and then talking to my therapist and so about it, my psychologist. So I started to write a book on grief and loss. So yeah, and it's really about all the losses, because I as well started a project on grief stories. So yeah, but I as well share lots of different stories from different people, and about all the kind of losses, really. So, and that's what my book is actually about. Well, I'm still working on it, so I hope one day it will be published. And yeah,
Yeah.
so it's still really, we could say, in nappies. Yeah.
Yes.
Diapers, I think, is an American one. Yeah. So yeah, but I do hope, because I think there are people, they like me, I'm sure they kind of, be like, oh, but nobody died, and so how I can go through grief, and say, no, you can. Every
Yeah.
loss you can, after every loss, and every loss is valid. Yeah, whatever it is, every loss is valid. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you mentioned your email. You have a website,
Yeah,
and
Journey of Smiley.
uh, yeah, and then you're on all of the social medias as well.
Yeah.
So I got all that information from you. I'm going to include those in the show notes so people can find you as well. Any last things? I want to be respectful of your time as well today too. Any last things you want to leave us with as we close up the show today?
Probably what we just said. I just want to say, you are not crazy. When you experience this, you are not crazy. You've been injured, and just like every injury requires healing. And so yeah, just heal, choose to heal. And it is so worthy. Choose to do this. So yeah, I would say. And I mean, there's so much of, I would say, lends helplessness when lots of people say, oh, but I cannot heal, like, nobody can heal from this. And so I said, no, you can, well, healing can mean lots of different things to different people as well. If it is just having less flashbacks or nightmares and so, or just get up in the morning, have a shower, whatever it is, really just decide, choose healing, really, like you can do it and it is worth it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Very good words to end on. Thanks so much for being here today, Katy.
And thank you so much for having me here.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Brain Wellness, the podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, I encourage you to subscribe, like, and share this with others to help me continue on with my mission to help people live healthier, happier lives. Go to www.brainwellnesssolutions.com to see what I'm up to and get links to all the social medias there. See you next time.